Founders Award.
Without further ado, on behalf of the entire television community, it is my great pleasure to present the Founders Award to my friend and colleague, Jesse Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Casey. Thank you to everyone here. That reel was quite spoiler-rich, so I hope people have seen the show. What an honor, I mean, to be amongst these, you or my colleagues, very serious TV people. There was a lunch this afternoon, and I could tell I was amongst very serious TV people because people were very warm about Succession, but what got a standing ovation practically was when the tax rebate in Norway was mentioned, and the room erupted with pleasure. But listen, that was so kind of you, Casey. I'm going to just say a couple of words. I don't think it'd be as charming if I just thanked myself. Some people can carry that off. Not me, I don't think. Because we all know that TV is a collaborative medium. And if you and your collaborators aren't working in harness, things can get fractured and diminished. But with great collaborators, it's words times performance, times direction, plus costumes, plus production design, multiplied by the score, probably times 10 if you have a composer like Nick Britell who does our score. And you get this kind of exponential creative growth with those great collaborations. So I'm going to mention a few of those. I've been lucky to collaborate with some extraordinary people who I have to mention. So I'm sorry for the names, but my long-time friend and writing partner Sam Bain on Peep Show and Fresh Meat. I wouldn't have done anything in TV without him. He's a lovely man. My fellow Succession writers, it's a team-written show, and rather a large number of the funny lines you just saw were written by my colleagues, some of them whom were sitting with me. But I think especially of Tony Roach, John Brown, Lucy Prebble, the brilliant Will Tracy, and Susan Soon-Hee Stanton. They're particularly brilliant because they're here. The others aren't. Ted Cohen and Georgia Pritchett. Frank Rich, who brought me to HBO's attention and has been a friend and often the first and last reader of drafts. And my friends and colleagues at HBO, Richard Plepler, who was there when the show started, and Casey Bloys, who I first pitched the show to and has backed it ever since, and his colleagues, Nora Skinner and Francesca Orsi, who with Casey shepherded the show through, fed me their notes, the best kind of notes, few and brief, sometimes big, but once the discussions were done, they always backed me and the team to the hilt. So great thanks to them. And my director friends, Becky Martin, who directed so much of Peep Show and Succession, Adam McKay, who directed the pilot and has been so generous, and my friend, my colleague, collaborator, and fellow refugee from British comedy, kind and thoughtful Mark Mylod. And two people who started out assisting me and ended up writing for the show who are here tonight, Nate and Callie. And my agents, Kathy King, my friend over from the UK, and Gregory McKnight and Dan Ehrlich, who are quite an unusual combination. They are US agents, and they're genuinely quite nice people. But they've been great advisors and protectors to me. Sorry for the boring listing, but it would feel dishonest not to acknowledge how much I've gained from the people I've learned so much from. I think especially of Chris Morris, Armando Iannucci, and Charlie Brooker. Like me, they learned their craft in the UK industry, mostly at Channel 4 and BBC, our incredibly important public service broadcasters. And it's funny what Casey said. I just wanted to end by saying a word about the generosity of the US. I studied in the US. I studied American studies about the US at college, but it wasn't until I was traveling across the country in the late 80s on Greyhound buses from New York to San Francisco that I got a sense of the generosity of the people of the US. And it's a generosity of spirit to outsiders that feels like it's a real signal quality of the US. Under threat, of course, all good things are always being fought for. But about Succession, even when it was a bumpy ride and it wasn't always all smooth, no one actually has ever really said, who is he and who are they to come over here and write about the US. And I think that openness, as well as being a virtue in its own right, openness to new people, ideas, is a core strength of the cultural life of the US. William Carlos Williams, American poet, said the pure products of America go crazy. I don't think that's quite right, but all purity in culture and in nations is an illusion. It's the alloys which are strong and interesting. That's it. I trust this is an alloy. I think it's pure gold. Thank you very much indeed.